There came a point in my life when I didn't even know what I was trying for anymore. Each morning still began the same, but something inside me had quietly stopped. It wasn't pain, not exactly sadness either. It was an emptiness, soft and quiet, as if I had walked through too many places, spoken too many words, and one day I simply had no more energy to push forward. So I paused. It wasn't a decision, not a breakdown, just stillness. And in that stillness, something unexpected happened. I began to hear the tiniest of sounds. A spoon clinking gently against a teacup, the breeze slipping through the window, a bird singing outside without urgency. I began to notice things I must have passed 100 times but never truly seen. A wildflower blooming through the cracks of the sidewalk. My own shadow stretching across the bricks in golden afternoon light. The way sunlight filtered through the curtain, softening the entire room. Maybe you'd wonder, what's so important about these little things? I used to wonder the same, but it turned out those little things saved me. They didn't ask for attention. They didn't try to impress. They simply were gentle, present, and kind. And through them, I began to realize maybe what I needed wasn't a brand new goal, but a new way of seeing. A quieter gaze. One that could pause long enough to notice and appreciate life in the simplest, most ordinary of moments. That morning felt different. No phone buzzing, no urgent tasks, no one calling my name from another room. Just me in my little kitchen, and the slow, steady drip of coffee filling the air with warmth. I smiled to myself. It had been so long since no one needed anything from me in the morning. No breakfast to prepare for someone else. No reminders to hurry out the door. Just me, my favorite mug, and a quiet that actually felt kind. I poured the coffee, picked the chair where the sunlight landed just right, and for the first time in a while, I didn't do anything. No checking messages, no looking at my to-do list. Just sitting there, hands wrapped around the warm cup, watching the leaves outside dance with the wind. Nothing grand, but nothing missing either. Maybe joy doesn't always arrive with excitement. Maybe sometimes it tiptoes in gently, in a morning when no one needs you, and you're free to simply be yourself, in the softest way possible. I don't remember exactly what day it was. I just remember folding laundry when an old song started playing. The melody was familiar, the voice from years ago, and suddenly I smiled. A soft smile, not forced, not polite. No one was watching. It just rose gently from the quietest part of me. I left the half-folded clothes where they were, sat down by the window, and let the music carry me somewhere far away. To golden afternoons from long ago, to moments when I used to smile like that for no particular reason. For so many years, I had tried too hard. To do well, to be strong, to look okay, even when I wasn't. And when you live like that for too long, even joy starts to hesitate, wondering if you're still light enough to let it in. So when that smile came, quiet and unexpected, like a summer breeze, I knew something inside me was softening, beginning to bloom again. Not because of anything grand, just because I didn't have to fake it. A real smile that didn't ask for permission. After that smile, something in me felt a little lighter, as if a small door had opened, and a bit of light was quietly finding its way in. I wasn't expecting anything special the next day, just another quiet morning, surrounded by familiar things in a house that knew me well. Then my phone buzzed gently. Shopping? It's been too long since we've hung out. Just a short message. From a friend I hadn't spoken to in a while, and yet it softened something deep inside me. I stared at that message for a while. I didn't reply right away, because in that moment I felt something rare, that I was remembered, not for being useful, not for doing anything special, just for being me. She's the kind of friend who's seen all my messy versions, the one who sat beside me in silence when I cried, and the one who made me laugh uncontrollably over the silliest memories. We hadn't met in some time, each of us caught up in our own pace, our own worries, our own little worlds. But with just one message, it felt like someone had quietly stepped into my quiet space, offering a hand, not to fix, not to explain, just to be there. That afternoon, I went out. No need to dress up, no need to say anything wise. Just myself, simple, relaxed, maybe even a little playful. We wandered through tiny shops, bought a few things we didn't need, laughed over a pair of sandals that were hilariously ugly, and sat quietly in a little tea shop, just like old times. Nothing big happened, just an afternoon with an old friend. But that day, I felt my heart open up a little more, gently, without force, just because someone thought of me and wanted to spend time with me, for no particular reason at all. After a few hours wandering through tiny shops, we had somehow ended up with quite a few bags. None of it was really necessary, but each item had made us laugh the moment we saw it. I looked at her and caught a reflection of my own smile in her eyes. No words needed. We both felt it. A kind of simple joy that didn't need to be explained. Then came the most natural suggestion. Let's drop these off and take a walk around the lake. She nodded and suddenly ran ahead like a kid. I stood there smiling, and for a moment, I honestly felt like I was a few years younger. When we returned to the lake, the afternoon light was soft like silk. A gentle breeze brushed across our skin, and the water lay still, as if listening with us. We walked slowly, side by side, our hands free and our hearts even freer. Sometimes we spoke, sometimes we didn't. Once we paused to watch an old man feeding birds by the water, and one of us asked, "Do you think that's us in the future?" She tried not to laugh out loud, and in that moment, I think I already knew the answer. Later, we found an empty bench. She turned to me and said, "I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I believe you'll be okay. And if you ever need somewhere to pause, I'm here." That was it. No advice, no fixing. Just a reminder that I didn't have to be strong all the time. For the first time in a long time, I let my guard down and told the truth about the sleepless nights, about not recognizing myself in my own life, about the quiet loneliness hidden behind all the roles I played, and about how deeply grateful I was that she was still here, with a kind of softness that asked for nothing in return. That evening, we didn't heal each other with perfect words. We just listened. We stayed, and we reminded each other that you don't have to be perfect to be deeply, truly loved. That afternoon, after coming home from our walk, I stepped into the room to grab a scarf. I wasn't looking for anything special, just a familiar piece of warmth, the way people often do when they want to hold on to a soft piece of the day. I opened the bottom drawer, and there it was, a tiny old shirt folded neatly. It was the one my son used to wear in kindergarten. The color had faded, the seams were a little frayed, but the little superhero print he used to love was still there. I picked it up, and like a slow-moving reel of film, everything came back. His tiny feet running through the house, those late afternoons when I'd chase him while he giggled uncontrollably, and the way his little hands clung to my shirt, asking for 5 more minutes of play. I remembered one time he wore this very shirt, running out into the yard during the first summer rain, yelling, "It feels so cool, Mama!" And there I was, trying to dry him off while laughing, shaking my head saying, "You're soaked!" That shirt now lay still in the drawer, but the memory felt incredibly alive, as if time had never passed. I sat down next to the dresser, holding the shirt against my chest, like holding a piece of myself. There were no tears, just a soft, steady warmth blooming in my heart, like a quiet embrace from the past. And in that moment, I whispered something gently in my mind. "I'm so glad you've grown up well, my little boy." Maybe love doesn't always need to be spoken out loud. Sometimes it just needs a heart quiet enough to feel it. That night, after the house had settled into its quiet, I poured myself a warm glass of water and stepped out onto the balcony. No TV noise, no work messages waiting, just the lights from the street below, twinkling like stars that had fallen gently to the ground. I used to spend my nights so differently, busy, restless, always carrying a mental list of things I hadn't finished. There were times I glanced out at the balcony, but it was always just a quick look before turning back inside. But tonight I paused, truly paused. Not to admire the view, but because something in me missed the feeling of simply being still. A soft breeze played with my hair, and the buildings in the distance looked hazy under the warm glow of the street lamps. Nothing outside had changed, but something within me had gone quiet. And I realized it had been a long time since I let myself feel beautiful in stillness. Not because I wore makeup, not because someone complimented me, just because I was here, alive, and grateful for that. I looked down at the street, watching the trail of car lights winding their way through the city. and something inside me felt like it was glowing too, gently, quietly. And I thought to myself, maybe life doesn't need to be loud to feel radiant. Maybe all it takes is one quiet moment to finally see the most beautiful things, shining softly in their own time. And in that moment, I understood I don't have to wait until everything is settled to feel peace again. I can begin right here, right now, standing in the nightlight, holding a little breeze and a quiet space that belongs entirely to me. When I came back inside, I set my glass down on the table and looked around. Nothing had changed. Same room, same curtain, same chair where I always sit. But something in me felt different. It wasn't dramatic. Not a sudden breakthrough or a grand turning point. Just a quiet feeling, honest and steady. I was starting to fall in love with life again. Little by little, through a friend's gentle glance, through an old song that made me smile, through my son's tiny shirt folded in a drawer, through the city lights from my balcony, and most of all, through my own quiet presence. In moments I used to rush past. I used to think that loving life again would require something big, a trip somewhere far, a new chapter, a person who'd change everything. But now I know. Sometimes the most extraordinary thing is choosing not to turn away from what's already here. A morning where no one needs me, a wordless hand reaching out, a laugh I didn't have to force, a quiet thankfulness for standing beneath the nightlights with nothing but my breath and my being. These moments won't make life perfect, but they soften the edges. And in that softness, I begin to live again, not with expectation, but with gratitude. Tomorrow might still hold its share of hard things. But if today I can smile at what I used to overlook, then maybe, just maybe, I'm already on my way. May you always find light in your life, joy in the small and familiar things, and love right where you are. Life doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful. You're doing so well, truly.